Good evening, everyone. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. Do you want to become IAS, IPS, IFS? Want to be part of the steel pillars of Indian administration? We Unacademy. You might be aware about Unacademy already, ladies and gentlemen. This is India's largest and the best online education platform. Yes. What are all the benefits you're likely to get once you enroll yourself in Unacademy? Ladies and gentlemen, if that's going to be your question, of course, you got daily live classes like this. You can chat with your educator and you can engage yourself in all-round productive discussions, and you can also ask all your genuine doubts and participate in the answer polls parallelly. All these things you can do when the session's going on. Ladies and gentlemen, we got structured courses here, which is completely based on UPSC Civil Service examination pattern and syllabus as well, so that you never get deviated from the expected framework. You stay on track, so that we save your time and energy. Ladies and gentlemen, one particular thing we are keep on emphasizing, you might be well aware. What is that? We've got a mechanism to evaluate your preparation in terms of various stages. Why, you can ask me? Because it is not knowing the stuff, knowing to deliver the stuff, because delivery matters. It's not what you deliver, rather how do we deliver. That matters a lot. Ladies and gentlemen, the mechanism helps you. How? You can ask me, that we conduct, regular mock tests and quiz programs. You get a detailed analysis based on your performance. The report, you come to know where you are strong, where you are weak, and also the time you have taken in solving a particular question. Ladies and gentlemen, once you enroll yourself in Unacademy, you got unlimited access. More than 1 million videos, part of, that Unacademy waiting there. Whatever may be your electronic device, whether it is mobile phone, laptop, desktop, irrespective of your electronic device, ladies and gentlemen, once you enroll yourself in Unacademy, you can learn from anywhere, anytime, irrespective of your electronic device. That's the idea. What you have to do for that, please download Unacademy learning app immediately, whether it is Android or iOS. Ladies and gentlemen, once you download, you are ready to access all those benefits. Yes. Who is this interacting with you? Of course, this is Success Sampath from Chennai with unique experience. Of God, that you might be aware, I got exposed to the fields of, engineering, management, and legal education. With 25 years of experience in the field of coaching, especially shaping the careers of civil service aspirants. With my team, I could witness the humble results. Of course, 250 plus results. All my kids are working in different parts of India as IAS, IPS, IFS, IRS, some of them in abroad as well, part of Union External Affairs Ministry, you might be aware. You can ask me one question. What's your vision, sir? Yes, to simplify the complexity and to be part of the solution. Fortunately, this particular vision of mine is completely in alignment with Unacademy's vision. We are working together. Together, we are building communities. Ladies and gentlemen, to begin with, we embrace, that Indian youths to be part of the solution. But that a career solution, especially we provide later to embrace the global community. Of course, Unacademy, you might be aware, already, they took the assignments of Indonesia. You might be aware. Ladies and gentlemen, let me repeat, together we are building communities so that you become officer or leader in your own capacity. You can also reach me through Telegram channel, ladies and gentlemen, Unacademy_Sampath. And not only that, a lot of my videos already available on the part of, Unacademy, especially YouTube channel, whether it is highly scoring popular optional subject called Sociology, or the so-called, that essay paper, or ethics and integrity, part of your GS mains, especially GS4 we are talking about, and topics belonging to international relations or global state system. You might be aware. Please watch those videos. You will definitely that get benefited more, because we are very confident. Why I'm saying this way? Because the last 5 years question papers, we have discussed part of the very platform. Once you download the app, you will witness all those videos. You can participate in the live programs also. The 5 years questions cutting across various segments of the GS. Several questions came in the recent prelims. You might be aware, we are getting fantastic feedback based on that. So that motivated us, that encouraged us, incentivized us. Because of that, we started discussing even that the various segments of the GS main for mains also. Why, the general studies, the prelims or mains, even when it comes to ethics and integrity, the several topics what we handle, that they came the recent mains also, the mains 2020. Ladies and gentlemen, you please attend those, sessions and compare with, the question paper you will come to know, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, not only that, you can also reach me, as I said, that the YouTube channel or, part of, the platform, of course, use my, that ID say Success Sampath or Sampath Iruvengidam. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also reach me in all my, that social, that network presence and benefit more. Welcome to Unacademy, ladies and gentlemen. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. Let me take you to the next level. Yes, it's not only me, we more than 100 plus top educators of India, that extending, support to you. Of course, under UPSC Civil Service Examination, ladies and gentlemen, you got more than 15,000 courses. You might be already aware. And not only that, that when it comes to, all popular optional subjects, that we extend our support part of Unacademy. Of course, for that, you can use my referral ID, say Success, to avail maximum 10% discount. Ladies and gentlemen, whether it is, that starting from 1 month to maximum 36 months, you got program. Of course, if you're going to use my referral ID, say Success, you're going to, that earn, that of course save 5K, 5,000 rupees you can save if you're going to use my referral ID, say Success. Ladies and gentlemen, it's not only me, as I told you, that variety of teams on a part of Unacademy waiting there to support you. Ladies and gentlemen, and beyond that, we strongly recommend Iconic program. Why? Because you will be allotted a personal coach, a mentor to understand your nature and to suggest study planner accordingly. So that, your study planner can be customized, personalized. Not only that, that we will be training you on, that everyday basis in terms of answer writing exercises. That will be, that discussions based on your, the solving of the questions, whether it is prelims or mains. Not only that, you may be, that needed some sort of clarity the moment, that you participate in sessions. For that, we allow you to attend booster sessions also. And you will be allowed to participate in the high intensity workshops. Ladies and gentlemen, all these measures we take on behalf of you definitely going to accelerate you, especially your preparation, that with our daily input basis, the daily input content, of course. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're already, that if you have subscribed part of, Unacademy, ladies and gentlemen, you can also upgrade yourself. You please talk to our team. They're very happy to help you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me repeat once again, that Iconic program, you can benefit more. And you can also upgrade, before 31st January, so that, you can avoid the, the price hike. Ladies and gentlemen, this is for the people who already subscribe the program. Yes. When it comes to, the optional subject as well as general studies, you can go for combination of programs. Maybe GS you can choose from Iconic program. Optional subject you can choose part of, plus program. Or you can go for exclusive, the plus program when it comes to optional as well as general studies, prelims, cum mains. Ladies and gentlemen, here too you can use my referral ID, say Success, to avail maximum 10% discount. Ladies and gentlemen, you've got, that 1 year courses, 2 year courses, 3 years courses. We understand you may be college going aspirant, you may be work going aspirant. That keeping all those things in mind, we have devised programs in such a way, flexi program, that it's not, the preparation should not be, a stressful activity. Learning should be fun. Ladies and gentlemen, it should be a fun. It should be a hobby. That demands, that you have to plan, accordingly. It is that way. You got, flexible programs. You go with that, in such a way you need not stress yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, we are there to guide you. Of course, that if you're going to use my referral ID, say Success, as I mentioned, you are ready to get, the 10% of discount, that, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, this is right time. Let me take you to the very purpose and direction of today's interaction. Yes, this is all about your most popular and highly scoring optional subject, part of your UPSC Civil Service Examination mains, we call Sociology. What is Sociology? Anyone? Come on. What is Sociology? Ladies and gentlemen, you might be already aware. This is in continuation of our own, the previous sessions. You might be aware. And some of you, already would have already attended even the morning program also. I understand there are newcomers too. Don't worry. It's our responsibility. We will take you on board. Yes, anybody? Anyone? What is Sociology? Please. Meanwhile. Yes, no doubt. It is, the study about society, science of society. Actually, it was called earlier social physics. The founding father of sociology, Auguste Comte, named it. The 1839, the French philosopher who named this subject in the beginning as, that the social physics. Later it was changed into sociology. It's a study about society, science of society. Why? How do you study? That you study in a systematic way, in a scientific way, in an integrated way. Ladies and gentlemen, that when I say scientific way, of course, that all the methods of natural sciences can be applied. You apply here part of sociology. That's why that it's called the movement called positivism, applying the methods of natural sciences for making study over society. You can ask me, that is it possible? Yeah, that we say the whole society is your laboratory. Of course, observation, experimentation, verification, hypothesis. When you apply all these methodologies, part of natural sciences over social science, the youngest of all social sciences, very recent origin. That the sociology, of course, that part of sociology on society, you get the report, that's very precise, accurate. Otherwise, that the very report what you arrive at is called, objectivity, with full of objectivity, not biased, not getting influenced. That otherwise you are capable of seeing two sides of a single coin. Otherwise, the very concept, whatever the concept you're going to discuss, that's going to travel through different perspectives we have on the part of sociology. Of course, the value neutrality, objectivity. Otherwise, you see the concepts like cultural relativism. Ladies and gentlemen, not only that, it's not only scientific study, it's also called systematic study. Say, for example, if you want to go into, if you're going to establish, family, you should have got married. Of course, the challenges towards that particular institution we talk about today, that living together relationship. Of course, we are talking about, each and every institution is undergoing, the phenomenal, evolving themselves. You might be aware. Otherwise, they're ready to face, the challenges on the part of, posed by, the technological world. Or, that it's not only industrial society, even the challenges from the post-industrial society. Of course, there we talk about, the breakdown of joint family into, that nuclear and neo-local family. Of course, when it comes to that particular situation, that it's going, it's towards, another transformation. Why you need, marriage if you want to establish a family? There comes another question. Why can't, that, you go for live-in relationship? Of course, you would have watched movie like, Okay, Janu. Very well, clear cut. Of course, that lot of, that young couples, already practicing in the metropolitan cities, the report says. I'm not speaking about right and wrong. It is just observation. There is no value judgments here. This is all the challenges faced by, the variety of institutions, part of the society. Of course, if you want to establish a family, you should have got married. You need the support of another institution. We're all getting married. Of course, marriage as a social institution based on biological, that it's otherwise biological union between male and female, but that enjoys, social recognition. Society should give approval, but that you talk about today, the marriage by elopement, that otherwise, that what about Gandharva marriages, love marriages, modern day marriages? We are talking about, that there may not be social approval there, but that so as long as you are, that you attain that, that legal age. We spoke about 1821, now 2123. We are talking about age at marriage. As long as you became mature, that ultimately you are ready to. You need not wait for social approval. Modern day, that legal mechanisms we have defined in such a way. It is that way. Of course, the members are recruited from family again. So marriage, after all, depending on another institution called family. So one institution is depending on another. Of course, young ones are, properly socialized through educational institutions, starting from creche, the KG, of course, schools, colleges. So one institution is depending on another institution. This is what interdependence, that we interconnectedness. We understand society as a system has got variety of subsystems, variety of social institutions. All institutions are interlinked. We understand, that it is that way. So it is a systematic study. Each and every social institution you treat as a subsystem, miniaturized the system, miniaturized version of the very society, of course. And also we talk about integrated study, because when we talk about, social sciences, you get variety of social sciences taking into account only one of the aspects of society, whereas sociology taking into account, all aspects of society. Marital, familial, the kinship, educational, economic, political, religious, even social stratification. You also address, the change in those social institutions in terms of, culture, in terms of structure, in terms of functionalities. Ladies and gentlemen, you might be aware the society is nothing but a system or network of social relationship. You might be already aware because you are part of the society. The society is in you. That's guiding you. How? Through culture. There is SIM card in you. Of course, that as said by Aristotle, man is a social animal. Even women. Why? Because the point of difference between we human society on the one hand, animal society on the other, you might be aware. What is that? The culture. It's a blueprint of the society. It's a way of life, style of life. Otherwise, let me talk about E.B. Taylor's definition parallelly. Culture is the whole complex which includes everything: knowledge, art, belief, language, literature, everything that can be acquired by any human being as a member of the society. So culture is learned. You are not inborn. It's not innate. And also that particular culture varies from society to society, time to time, the place to place. Otherwise, spatially, temporally, the culture varies. There is no absolute culture in the world. Of course, that there comes ultimately, that the moment you become judgmental, you may be called ethnocentric, or you may be, called xenocentric, or you may be, that if you're very objective, sociologically speaking, you may be called, that you try to understand the context in which you evaluate. If at all you go for evaluation, you should not evaluate first of all culture. Who are you to evaluate? On what parameters? There comes question. If at all you go and evaluate, it should be based on a particular context. The context decides whether it is right or wrong. There we talk about cultural relativism, which is equivalent to the notion, the very notion of sociology, of course, objectivity, value neutrality, bias-free, speculation-free, influence-free. Ladies and gentlemen, so it is that way. So, that in sociology, the study, the science of society, the study about society, the study you make is called systematic study, scientific study, integrated study. And not only that, already this particular subject matter called sociology. I'm cheating, actually. You know everything. Probably, that you may not be knowing exactly the nomenclature, that's all. The keywords, the key terminologies. Otherwise, that who said this, what said by, that, there comes another question ultimately. You may not be knowing that. Otherwise, this particular concept belonging to which perspective you may not be knowing. Otherwise, you know everything. There comes, the teacher like me, educator like me to guide you, to connect with the syllabus, of course, syllabus of UPSC. Otherwise, you know everything. Because that you have been taught, you have been socialized, you have been brought up in such a way. The very culture, what you got, how you got. Otherwise, if you say, this is what me, this is what my personality, this is what my character, it is the outcome of the socialization. The value system God inculcated in you. It is two-way process. The society, that institutionalized through its institutions. You have been institutionalized the very culture of the society. And also you submitted yourself. You took in, you internalized the value system. In both ways, institutionalization at the societal level, internalization at the individual level, both put together. It is not intermittent process or discrete process, that it is called, lifelong process. We say cradle to grave. The very socialization we are talking about. And other social sciences, people use, that association, that in anthropology, it's called enculturation, Herskowitz. We're talking that way. Simply put it in common parlance, the brought up, like mother, like daughter, birds of the same feather flock together. You speak that way. எந்த குழந்தையும் நல்ல குழந்தைதான் இந்த மண்ணில் பிறக்கையில்லை, பின்பு நல்லவராவதும் தீயவராவதும் தன் அன்னை வளர்ப்பினில்லை. So there comes, role of socialization. I'm talking about the way with which you brought up ultimately. That the external world is introduced to you by your family members. Charity begins at home. The various agents of socialization through which, ultimately you come to know. The culture, the SIM card enters in you, but it's not one day fine morning. Cradle to grave, lifelong process. It is that way, the concepts, variety of concepts you got in sociology, maybe they give conceptual clarity. It is not speaking, that one concept, while trying to communicate one concept, you end up with another concept. It's not like that. Letter and spirit you speak. This particular sociology, the subject matter has got variety of benefits. I think I'm qualified enough to speak about it. Because, I could score fantastic marks. Even a lot of my kids, they are into service now. You can join them. Earlier, I was called Sociology Sampath. Later, I became Success Sampath because of the organization. You might be aware. And like all my the kids in different parts of India, as officer, leader in their own respective circle, you can be like them. You can also score fantastic marks. Why? There is a saying, yanayal yanayatatre. With one stuff you are capable of delivering or meeting the challenges from multiple friends we are talking about, multiple platforms we are talking about. This sociology will equip you in such a way you are ready to write even 2 essays part of your mains for 250 marks. Why? If you take into account last 25 years of question papers, all questions that can be grouped under 8 categories. I say domain knowledge. One of the domains happen to be society. When you write that, you should not reveal that you are from sociology. That you have to ensure. Let me speak this way, that if you're a civil service aspirant, one particular slogan we are keep on emphasizing: jack of all, master of one particular subject. That subject is called optional subject. You are supposed to be a generalist, not specialist. Maybe the optional subject demands your specialization. But when you write essay or general studies answer, you should not reveal your flavor of your optional. You have to guard yourself from there. So it's not only that, the general studies paper 1, of course, where you got society portion. The paper 4, you got ethics and integrity. 120 plus 130 marks put together 250. The 130 marks of ethics and integrity, where we say, that the case studies. Ladies and gentlemen, 1 second. That's fantastic. So, that they are otherwise called social problems. So, that once you are equipped to this level, otherwise it will transform you. The very subject matter, sociology, will transform you. Your communication becomes, fantastic. It's free from, bias, free from influence. Whatever may be the concept, you're ready to see two sides of a single coin. That's a byproduct of this particular, the benefit of this particular sociology. Because, in sociology, you got variety of perspectives. You might be aware. When I say major perspectives, probably I can say, the structural functionalism. The structural functionalism school of thought in sociology treats society as a system, as if it has got order, stability, cohesion, cooperation, equilibrium. Anything which promotes or reinforces already existing order said to be functional to that particular society. Anything that weakens already existing, social order, that could be dysfunctional to that particular society. You look at that way. That's called structural functionalism, where you bring ultimately people like Emile Durkheim, and also, that the American structural functionalists, you call, that Talcott Parsons, Robert K. Merton, even Indian sociologist M.N. Srinivas. You're talking that way. And you got another perspective. That's called, of course, the conflict tradition. The founder of conflict tradition, very well, the Karl Marx. According to Karl Marx, the history of hitherto all existing societies full of struggle between haves and have-nots. Why struggle? It's because of the thing, the antagonism or conflict. Why? It's because of the exploitation. Haves trying to exploit the have-nots. Rich trying to exploit the poor. Except primitive communism, in all stages, you find this. That's what, historical materialism, where, the Karl Marx explains. Otherwise, the political goal of the Marxism is the establishment of, the classless communist society called egalitarian society. According to this conflict tradition, the change is permanent. The change by revolution. It's a radical change. Why the revolution? It's because of the simmering discontent, because of the exploitation. That exploitation is very severe and sharper in the industrial society. That is why revolution. The world proletariats unite together. There comes clarion call. Of course, you would have seen in Tamil movie, that உழைக்கும் தோடர்களே ஒன்று கூடுங்கள். The clarion call, maybe the old song I'm talking about. நீங்க நல்லா இருக்கோணும் நாடு முன்னேற. That song, of course. The clarion call, world proletariats unite together. That's a clarion call by Karl Marx. There comes the revolution ultimately. It's radical. Even Mahatma Gandhi dreamed of egalitarian society. But that's in different path. What is that path? Of course, today, the death anniversary of the great Mahatma. The Mahatma, the title was given by Sir Rabindranath Tagore. You might be aware. Though Sir Rabindranath Tagore had his own difference of opinion with Mahatma Gandhi ji, that's different scenario. Mahatma Gandhi dreamed of egalitarian society. Gandhi kanda samadharma samudayam. All resources are equally accessible to all the members of society we are talking about. But, he chose the path of, ahimsa, satyagraha, whereas Karl Marx chose the path of, revolution, radical revolution. Of course, according to Mao Zedong, you might be aware, where violence is not ruled out. So the paths are different, destinations same. Destination same. Even today, that's why, but criticism came to this conflict school of thought or materialistic philosophy of Karl Marx, say historical materialism or dialectic materialism, one opposing another, the contradiction, the conflict rooted in exploitation. Materialism will never materialize criticism. You might be aware, you would have heard about it in your lifetime. Even the remnant of those ideology you see in the name of the political parties, the communist parties. Of course, you don't have pure the Marxism version, the variants of Marxism everywhere. There is no pure Marxism. Even the very China, you see the presence of classes. Of course, the Marxism meant for the establishment of classless communist society. Of course, that, but in some ways, that those who are all, that economic infrastructure shapes superstructure. That's what according to the very Karl Marx. Those who are well off in economic institution, capable of influencing rest of the institutions. Even today, it is relevant. Infrastructure shapes superstructure. But of course, the criticism from Max Weber within conflict tradition, superstructure shaping infrastructure, where he took asylum in religion, especially the Protestant ethic and spirit of capitalism, you might be aware. Ladies and gentlemen, so the two major perspectives, not only that, that one more perspective, of course, this particular, the conflict tradition, you might be aware, the change is permanent. The change, this particular conflict school of thought preoccupied with the notion called change, the change by revolution. Whereas structural functionalism school of thought, that preoccupied with the notion called, that order, stability, cohesion, equilibrium. You got another perspective that's said to be future of sociology. What is that? Symbolic interactionism. We develop meanings only during interaction. We develop meaning. The meaning arises out of social interaction, where we use symbols, gestures, where we come to know, in conflict school of tradition, that not only Karl Marx, Max Weber, Ralph Dahrendorf, even Indian sociologist A.R. Desai. But whereas, symbolic interactionism, George Herbert Mead, play stage, game stage, significant others, generalized others, all those stuffs you come to know. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, so every concept travels through different perspectives. And you got another perspective also in Indian society, the Indian sociology called Indological perspective by G.S. Gurye. He took asylum in books, scripts, shrutis, smritis. That's called bookish view. But he became ideological because he gave importance to that the textbook view, but not like that Yemen Srinivas, the field specific view. You might be aware there are a lot of criticisms. That's totally the different. There is a one more perspective called feminist view, but major perspective: structural functionalism, conflict school of thought, even symbolic interactionism. That's what part of your syllabus you come to know, ladies and gentlemen. So not only that, that you also employ case studies when it comes to that. So when you talk about the sociology, you got that the very society has been given that in terms of social institutions. This is apart from the basic concepts, all social institutions. And also you talk about change in social institution. The change you call social change, change in society. The change because of the culture, the cultural change. The change in way of life, style of life, food habits, dress style. Maybe for example, Sanskritization, as said by M.N. Srinivas. Lower caste people imitating the lifestyles of upper caste people. It offers only cultural change, not positional change, not structural change. But when we say structural change, where we are talking about change in institutions, of course, that happened in India because of the colonization, British colonization. We could witness paradigm shift. Yes, and also functionality change. We are talking about, as I said in the beginning, the most of the vital functions once attached with the joint family system. You might be aware, predominantly you would have witnessed in the rural area, traditional agrarian society. The common kitchen, common worship, common property, 2 to 3 generations living together. It is otherwise called extended family. Joint family is a type of extended family. But they got reduced to mere nuclear and neo-local family given because of industrialization, migration, the transportation, the technology, the individualism, privacy, the value system on the part of Western society penetrated the collectivism principles of that Indian society. Of course, that so joint family system, that got destroyed to some extent. Now, the presence of nuclear and neo-local family, where you witness, husband, wife, children. It is that way. And most of the vital functions, once attached with the very joint family, have been taken over by the rest of the institutions in the society we call. To take care of young one, you got crash. To take care of old age people, you got old age homes. That's what we used to sarcastically say. That those who are all the young couples, if you don't take care of your young kids, sending to that pre-cage crash, na, don't you wait for some more time. They're going to send you to the old age homes, even if you don't like it. Vinay விதைத்தவன் வினை அறுப்பான். Karma theory. Its history is going to repeat itself, right? We talk about that way. Forget about that. So that the point is that if you got confused in terms of your investments, you got that ultimately that financial investors, wealth managers to guide you. Any problem between the husband wife, of course you get the support of psychiatrist. You'll be given counseling. We are talking about that way. Most of the vital functions, that given the world we are living, that Swiggy, Zomato, one day fine morning there may not be kitchen. We are heading towards that. That's what their motto too. Already they have replaced that the weekly once you don't cook in families, but I'm not saying that it's the responsibility of women alone. All that both husband wife they can take part, but what happened, you want to take risk. Ultimately Swiggy, Zomato entered over the days, that ultimately the priority differs. Of course we are talking about. So I'm not, that speaking in favor of the tradition. It's not the exclusive domain of women also. In that sense, women are getting exploited. Exploitation of the family results in exploitation of the society. Charity begins at home. We are talking about. So this is not the change that we witness. Ladies and gentlemen, what is the point? Of course, most of the vital functions once attached with, the family taken over by the rest of the institutions in the society. Is family losing its significance? Even the marriage, losing its sacrosanct value. That's why, that today we are talking about live-in relationship. The challenges posed by, in the globalization era, the industrial society, in the individualism and privacy notion, the materialistic world, and people's preoccupation with different value systems. Otherwise, that there may be an accusation, that the eroding value systems on the part of the society you may be talking about if you speak from, if you are speaking as, the custodians of the tradition. And this is what, the lag between, the culture on the one hand or civilization on the other, as said by Ogben and Nimkov. Ladies and gentlemen, so, what happens, right? The change in terms of culture, change in terms of structure, change in terms of functionality in all these institutions, that's what you call social change. What I spoke, all these concepts presented as paper 1 and paper 2. The paper 1 all about, global thinkers. If you're good at thinkers, that paper 1 is nothing. In paper 2, that applying those concepts and theories and perspectives in Indian context, that's what your paper 2. Otherwise, that there should be integrated preparation this way. Ladies and gentlemen, so welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you. Of course, what is this? So this particular, that session, of course, this is, as I said, right, it is in continuation of the previous sessions, that we already dealt. You please watch them to benefit more. The all thinkers, that we have discussed, even Indian sociologists, and some of the important units also we discussed, the part of, that Unacademy YouTube channel. Please watch them to benefit more. That you have seen the questions also, that in the recent mains. Ladies and gentlemen, this is what the purpose, of course, we are talking about. Yes, the question solving methodology. I'm going to, it's not knowing this stuff, knowing to deliver the stuff. So first, it demands your understanding, because this subject itself very popular, highly scoring. Why? Because it's very easy to understand, because you are in touch with that subject. Day by day, you are living with that particular subject. Only thing you don't know nomenclature, the perspectives or thinker's name. There comes my role, that to connect you with the syllabus, with those, that expected items from UPSC angle. And also having understood the subject matter, that there comes our role to deliver. It's not knowing the stuff, knowing to deliver the stuff, because delivery matters. And it's not what you deliver, rather how do you deliver. That's important. So where we talk about, it's not a hard work, it's not a harsh work, it's not a donkey work. Rather, we expect you to do, harsh work, smart work. For that, you have to understand the methodology. Where I'm going to suggest you formula, that the recent UPSC mains 2020 questions, that I took into account even in the morning session. You please watch them. They centered around the session called, the topic called, of course, social mobility in the context of social stratification. I'm going to elaborate, don't worry. And in what way, that the smart and effective solutions can be provided using that methodology. We are going to elaborate, and that too we are going to apply in front of, that for two questions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is in continuation of the morning session. Of course, we could discuss, two great questions with elaborate discussion on social mobility in the context of social stratification, and also finally, what are the resources to be consulted. Finally, that so my humble attempt, that I'm taking you, that this is your foundation. You're going to build superstructure based on this foundational knowledge. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to the next level. Welcome to Unacademy. This is Success Sampath interacting with you, ladies and gentlemen. And of course, I gave you enough brief about sociology. What is the methodology? Yes, the methodology, that when you see a question, when I see a question, I don't see a question as a question. I see a question as a tat. This is what comes to me. I want you to look at that way. There should not be a gap between you and I. நான் பேச நினைப்பதெல்லாம் நீ பேச வேண்டும். What I think you have to do, what I believe you have to believe. What I think there should not be a schism. In that way, there should be, the frequency matching. When I see a question as a tat, you are also going to see question as a tat. Why? I'm going to give justification for that. Because, in a question, what do you see at the end of the day? The question is centered around a topic. A topic may be, that having, almost 360-degree angle, I'm saying. The multiple aspects when it comes to a topic. Probably this particular question is centered around one of the aspects of the topic. So you have to understand, because, you make it more relevant. The moment you see the question, it's not, that you writing, that answer. If you write the answer, that it's not writing what you know. It is writing what is expected out of you. So only when you understand, that which aspect of the topic has been put into question, then only your answer becomes, more relevant to the point. Otherwise, you may get the satisfaction you wrote something, and when it comes to the scoring, it may not be as expected. It's not blaming game. It's not blaming UPSC or evaluator. You have to blame yourself. Have you delivered as expected, that letter and spread by UPSC? That comes, that comes another question. So you have to understand, it's not only locating the topic and also locating the aspect of the topic. So to be more precise, to be more relevant, and to make, impact, hit the nail squarely. Otherwise, not only that, that particular question may have its own task also. The task, that of course it may be, they ask you to, critically evaluate, critically analyze, discuss, distinguish, comment, elucidate, examine. Whatever may be, that is the task. That you have to perform that task. It's not, that in your own way, that you start, that writing answer. What is expected out of you? Because your duty is to answer the question as expected. That's important. It's not writing what you know. It is writing what is expected out of you. Not only locating the topic, not only locating the aspect of the topic, and also delivery to the task. You become taskmaster then. That becomes, the perfect execution then. Ladies and gentlemen, so the question is no more question, it's called TAT. That's ideology. It's not only an optional subject. You can apply the similar principle even in the world of general studies. Ladies and gentlemen, whenever you try to practice, whether it is, that 10 questions, that from prelims angle objective type, or even at the 4 questions from general studies, 2 questions from your optional, weekly once, one topic belonging to essay, I expect you to practice. Your day should be divided in terms of 2 parts. First part for your, that question solving exercises. Second part, that may be your routine, your own style, maybe conventional preparation in terms of your textbook, chapter by chapter reading and taking notes out of it. Because only when you spend half a day in terms of, question solving exercises, your preparation becomes, result oriented preparation. Otherwise, it's not seeing the question on the day of examination and, that later you feel, that complicated. No, it is tough. No questions and all very tough, Who said so? It's a value laden notion. Yes, it will be tough as long as that you don't know exact, the track of preparation. It's not a ritual or ceremony, for which you're going to sit for the next 2 years. It's going to be result-oriented preparation. It's a journey. You're going to be the decision maker. Because, the success is a momentary pleasure, of course. The becoming all India topper, IAS, IPS. What you're going to do with that? So the journey, that constructs you. that sculpts you. You're going to use the same when you be part of, that the steel pillars of Indian administration. That's very important. You have to understand, you have to enjoy the curves, ups and downs. Life is all about dealing with imperfections, not about mere perfections. Falter, commit mistakes, learn out of it. Come on, move ahead. We're talking about that way. So, everyday exercise, what you do in the name of question solving, whether it is prelims, objective type, or main subjective. Of course, for that, those questions, you're going to ultimately that the consult the resources so that you stay on track. You are going to use this not only for optional, even for the general studies portions. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a simple methodology. You try practice, that ultimately. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, that we are going to discuss now only the two questions, because the rest of the questions we discussed in the previous session. Please watch them. There comes a categorical statement. What is that? No society can either be absolutely open or absolutely closed. This is in continuation of the previous discussion also. There came the question already, and you are asked to comment, register, record your feelings. Yes, there is no watertight compartment. No product is free from issues, like no individual is free from problems. As long as you talk about product, there will be issues. That's why support and service. As long as you talk about human beings, there will be problems. But problems are wonderful opportunities to provide solution. An optimist will see solution in every problem. A pessimist will see problem in every solution. So this is embracing the opportunities we are talking about. So, these are all the categorical statements that way. No society is, there is no watertight compartment. Even in the world of culture, I said, there is no absolutely right culture or wrong culture. Because culture varies from place to place, time to time, spatially, temporally. Yes. So another categorical statement I'm talking about, no society can be, there is no watertight compartment. It is strictly open society, strictly. Even in the rural urban, you talk about rural urban continuum, urbanization. There is no strict watertight compartment. Yeah, here rural area begins, urban area begins. You may have your own boundary, that's all. But the feature, you can't. Even the whole plan of the earth over which you have drawn latitude, longitude for your own convenience. You divided the people in terms of nationalities. When we talk about Northeast, that India, that the whole ethnicity, the homogeneous ethnicity, the Northeastern insurgency, you couldn't fix it. It's because of that. The continuation of ethnicity. They've got their own, their own brother, sister, their own relatives in Myanmar, neighborhood. Of course, we are talking about the Chinese, the Mongolites we are talking about. But we have drawn boundaries over them. We divided them in the name of nationalities. For our political reasons, administrative reasons, that's a different scenario. But that the race continuity, we divided that way. So no society can be divided in such a way. It's an open society, class, the closed society. There will be continuum. Otherwise, in the open society, you also witness some sort of, that social, the very restrictions. Social mobility may be zero. Or in the closed society, social mobility may be also available. And before going there comes my responsibility to explain you what is social mobility. Ladies and gentlemen, this particular, both questions, otherwise, that the discussions today, otherwise, these two questions centered around the notion called social mobility. The social mobility you can understand only in the context of social stratification. What is social stratification? There comes another question. Social stratification is a process. It's a process of making layering in the society. You stratify society. You classify society. You divide society on the basis of a particular criteria. That criteria may vary from place to place, time to time, society to society. Otherwise, you say social stratification is universal. No society is unstratified. Even if you say, the society, in a particular society, the tribal society, the traditional agrarian society, maybe social stratification at the beginning level. Stratification may be in terms of age, in terms of strength, master slave, in terms of age. The elder people will be allowed to participate in the tribal council. The younger may not be. In terms of gender, all men may be. But in the Rigvedic society, even women were allowed to participate. Later, Gupta period, we talk about decline of, the status of women. That's different scenario. The Rigvedic, women were allowed to participate, Sabha, Samati. Such is the thing you have to understand. So the women empowerment is not a modern concept, ladies and gentlemen. You have to understand, that you have to understand the historical roots here in India. And there were, so many women participate in the religious discourse, debate. Even Adi Sankara was, once defeated by a woman, you might be aware. He was a brahmacharya, couldn't answer a particular question posed by a woman. So many things you come to know through history. That it is that way. That much. So that it's not everything. It's not tracing the root in the modern world. Of course, it's a man. There are good things in the modern world also. It's not outrightly rejecting we are talking about. Come back. So social that stratification is otherwise. Let me give you the formula. Sir, SI plus R. As I said in the beginning, even the morning I gave you this. What is that? The advertisement in the olden days. Yedirigale Arichita, sir. Pepsodent advertisement, I believe. One toothpaste. A small kid, the son of the soldier who came on, that leave to the family, the kid will start wearing the uniform and putting cap. Yedirigale Arichita, sir, the kid will say. Yeah, how you did? Mummy will ask, yes. That ultimately all those, that enemies in my mouth, that I used my Pepsodent, I'm not advertising for a particular company. That the paste ultimately, they got the germs, all those micro, that the germs, got killed by the paste. The ghost, sir, take into account, sir. What is that, sir? Of course, that social inequality plus ranking, so that you keep in your mind. Social stratification is a system of making layering in the society that involves two concepts: social inequality, socially created inequalities, and associated ranking or gradation or hierarchy. This social inequality, because we are not living in the world of egalitarian society. You talk about that inequalities all round, because egalitarian society is imaginary, utopian even today. But what we are witnessing, society with social inequalities, the social differentiation accordingly. Then ultimately people are that valued high, low. So when the moment you go for that ranking, as I said, in the caste system, you would have witnessed, you would have seen the Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, the hierarchy, one above another. It's based on purity and pollution notion we are talking about. Once you are born in a particular caste, you have to die in that caste. That's what the caste dharma says. But of course, it is getting replaced by class system in the modern day world. That's different. But it's parallelly getting institutionalized also, as said by M.N. Srinivas, the 21st century avatar, the caste, 21st century avatar. And even politicians are, that very keen, that in ensuring the survival of the caste. As identity politics, you might be aware. The vote bank politics. People are not casting their votes, they're voting the caste. All those. So social stratification as a process involves social inequality and ranking we are talking about. Socially created inequalities, social differentiation, then gradation of the individuals or ranking, hierarchy, one above, one below. It is that way. When you go up, you are more privileged. When you come down, you are more disprivileged. So where ultimately what happened, that once you are born in a particular caste, you have to die in that caste. Maybe in your rebirth, you can get upper birth. That goes that way, that notion I'm talking about. The various forms of social stratification, as that you might be aware, in terms of caste system, that the racial segregation we are talking about, in terms of class system, the gender, the age. It is that way we are talking about, that. So here, the very rigid society, the caste system, that's what we are talking about, because maybe in the very birth, when caste system got originated, it was based on division of labor. It was quite functional those days. Based on judgment system, even the remnants of that caste system you find in the rural areas, traditional agrarian society. The people were living together, amicably. The judgment system is otherwise called intercaste, interfamilial, intergenerational relationship, not based on pure economic relationship. Judgment, Kameen, the Kameen, servicing caste, judgment, who is a patron or good Samaritan to take care of, that the Kameen, the servicing caste. Judgment happened to be upper caste, Kameen happened to be, that lower caste. That's different scenario. The remnants of caste system, even today you witness in the rural or traditional agrarian society. So it was working very well. When the problem happened, so the moment it acquires rigidity, the people thought as if they are superior when they are born in upper caste, or people felt inferior when they are born in lower caste because of disprivileges. the social distance, the taboo, food taboo, vessel taboo, connubial taboo, commensal taboo. What is taboo? Taboo means, prohibited relationship. You are prohibited from, that from certain social actions. Actually, it came from the word called taboo. Taboo means Hindi term, tappu. Actress tabu, tappu. Eh? Is it so? Is it so we are talking about? So it is that way, the taboo, that the variety of taboos we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. So the social disabilities, the social distance accordingly. The people hitherto oppressed and suppressed, historically, we did, the correction, historical correction by going, through constitution, especially by going for reservation, protective discrimination, positive discrimination. We're talking that way, ladies and gentlemen. So there, ultimately, once you are born in a particular caste, you have to die in that caste. That's why social mobility is called, zero. No mobility at all. What is social mobility? Movement of people from one stratum to another is strictly prohibited here. Once you are born in a particular caste, you have to die in that caste. But whereas in the class system, it's freely allowed. The modern industrial advanced society where the social mobility is maximum, flexible. But this caste system is rigid in character. Closed system. We're talking that way, that. So, but what happens right here, Yaman Srinivas gives the concept called Sanskritization, where he says lower caste people imitating the lifestyles of upper caste people. Especially people who live in the, Agraharam street, the non-Brahmins imitating the lifestyles of upper caste people happen to be Brahmins, whose language happen to be Sanskrit. That's called Sanskritization. He talks about exceptional case. Even in the closed system, you got social mobility. The same way, even in the absolutely open system, in the American society, the UK, where people who have come up in life, they don't allow others to come up. They act as a barrier. They give tough, you might be aware. How the competition emerges, scuttling the efforts of, that other the entrepreneurs, other business people, corporate people, the people part of the same profession. Otherwise, they want to maintain the same, the supremacy position, elitism character. They don't want to dilute that particular, respect they command in the society. So they restrict, others' entry. There are a lot of examples like that. So even in the open society, you got, that ultimately the mobility is getting restricted. The movement of people from one stratum to another, maybe at the individual level, maybe at the collectivity level, societal level. We're talking that way, ladies and gentlemen. So, but even the closed society, there is a possibility of, that the very, the social mobility in the name of Sanskritization, in the name of Westernization. You ape the West, copy the lifestyles of West. Of course, you would have seen, that in 70s, that in Tamil there came one movie, Engeyum Eppodum, that Sangeetham, the very, I think, Rajinikanth movie, Rajinikanth Kamal Hassan, Nenithal Inikkum, I think. So, the Kalai Japanil Coffee, Malai New Yorkil Cabaret, Iravil Thailandil Jolly, see all this, that the people in the traditional society, the Indian society, agrarian society, they come to know what's happening in Singapore. Relatively, developed, that we are talking about when comparing with India. So, that they ape that particular style. It is that way we are talking about. Even, so the social mobility, the lifestyle, change in culture maybe, at least. That's, as you ape, the Western world, the US, what's happening in US, what's happening in Europe, the same way we are talking about. So the possibility, so it's because of that particular count we say no society is perfectly closed, or no society is, that absolutely, that open. Of course, you see exceptional cases in both. That is what the spirit we are going to elaborate, ladies and gentlemen. So there comes ultimately education transforms an individual, not only individual, transforms society. An instrument of social change we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, education, that otherwise, what happened, the Kothari committee recommendations, you would have been already aware, in my opinion. Ladies and gentlemen, the future of the nation shaped in the classroom as we shape you. You're going to be the future leader, future officers, the steel pillars of Indian administration. We are shaping you. Of course, virtual learning, what you are part of it now. The future of the nation is shaped in the classroom. You're going to be the future leader. Of course, we shape you, we socialize you. What is the point? By inculcating the value system. so that you become part of the solution. You take the nation to the next level, humanity to the next level, so that the world lives in peace. Ladies and gentlemen, so there comes, that important role played by one of the, the social institutions in society called educational institution, where inculcation of the value system, the transformation of an individual, transformation of society, the instrument of social change. Yes, it is that way we are talking about how that education as the major source of social mobility. Yeah, it's because of the education. You've got a lot of examples in India. A person belonging to, that minority fisherman community, to Dr. Kalam, rose through the level of, you might be aware, the Rashtrapati, the president of India. He became, the icon to the youth of India. You might be aware. So the very great impact, the people's president. Think about it. The education. Even Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, from oppressed community, represented, the depressed classes, rose to that level. Fought for, that the plight of, the Dalit community. You might be aware. And various examples you can talk about, that. So the very education, that took, that the very Sundar Pichai to the greatest level in USA as a corporate personality, heading the Google. You might be aware. And, Indra Nooyi, PepsiCo, that the chairman you are talking about, and Satya Nadella. Why? The education. Of course, we are talking about, I'm not talking about dropouts, you've got other examples also, that there are college dropouts happen to be Steve Jobs, Bill Gates. Of course, even why, the Sachin Tendulkar, that's a different scenario. In different contexts, we can argue. I'm talking about education, that by inculcating value system, transform society, as, parallelly transforming individuals too. Of course, that provides wonderful opportunity for mobility, social progress, not only on the part of individuals, even for the collectivity. The contemporary, society, that what we are witnessing, we are going to discuss, ladies and gentlemen, the two questions, that our discussion is centered around that. I think it is right time. Let me take you in. Once again, ladies and gentlemen. You can also refresh yourself, please. No society can either be absolutely open or absolutely closed. That's the question. Of course, you've been asked to comment. This is what the task. That this is about social mobility is the topic. Hope you would have understood. Social mobility is the topic where they are talking about, the categorical statement. This is the aspect. What is the task you are asked to do? Comment. What is the meaning of, the word called comment? Of course, to say what you think or what you feel about something. That is a comment we are talking about. And something that you say or write that gives your opinion or feeling about something. It's your personal opinion. They asked you to register your comment. What do you feel? How do you feel about it? Your opinion. It is that way, that what you want to say, what do you want to write. That's what generally comments we are talking about. Of course, that no strings attached. You can be very free. They express your opinion over this particular categorical statement. Of course, you understood the very task, I believe. Ladies and gentlemen, this is right time. Let me take you to the next level. Notice that social mobility is defined as, that you have to, if at all you want definition, that comes here. I understand there are a lot of newcomers because I restrict myself to some extent because I elaborated extensively in the previous, session. You can also watch that. In spite of that, let me do justice. Let me take responsibility to even the, the newcomers, on board this in this session. I understand, ladies and gentlemen. So social mobility is defined as a movement of an individual or group from one social class or one social stratum to another. The framework of the system of stratification. See the context. You can never talk about social mobility without the system of stratification. This is the context. Social mobility could be, the movement of people or individual or collectivity may be upward or downward. It may be called horizontal mobility. It may be called absolute mobility or relative mobility. The types I'm talking about. Upward mobility, down, or maybe intergenerational mobility or intragenerational mobility. The mobility is maximum when the society is going to be flexible, fluid, open society, industrial society, modern society, But that particular social mobility is restricted when the society is rigid, closed. This is general statement. In spite of that, we talk about, very exceptions, very exception. So social mobility is defined as movement of individual or group from one social class or social stratum to another. It's not only social class, maybe one caste to another caste. But whereas, unfortunately, in caste system, it is restricted. You can go for religious conversion, not for caste conversion. Of course, that intercaste marriages diluting that particular rigidity also, that's different scenario. We're talking about. I heard, that a lot of IAS, IPS officials belonging to Dalit community married Brahmin ladies. That their children studied with me. And that he will be, fair in complexion, and that may not be resembling with, the disabilities faced by the downtrodden community. When I asked them, that I belong to SC, but because, that my dad married my mom happened to be Brahmin. Social status. So intercaste marriages diluting the very purpose. Of course, they find problem. If they are not well off, that they will find problem in finding the mate also. They can't get, that again from Brahmin community, but well off, economy wise well off, of course, that also, the breaks, you might be aware. The caste is getting replaced by class in the urban areas. But probably in the rural areas, they will find difficulty, not in the urban areas. It's that way we are talking about. The caste is, even for political leaders, they're very happy to influence the voting behavior of the masses by appeal of caste. But no caste leader will have, that his own, the daughter or, his own daughter or son getting married to, the lower class of his own caste. That will never happen. There comes Karl Marx, materialism. Eh? It is that way. But they'll be very happy to announce. They're not, it's my observation. It's your observation too. How long, that it's identity politics otherwise. Like, the language, caste, religion, the region, even the race. Variety of identities utilized for influencing the voting behavior of the masses we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. But we don't want mere identity politics. We want rather, developmental politics. The development politics also should not be the development of few corporates. Otherwise, there will be accusation called corporate-driven politics. The growth that benefits everyone we are talking about. Of course, let's that we will be discussing all those things in a different topic altogether. Ladies and gentlemen, come back to this social mobility. You can never talk about social mobility without the context called social stratification. There are various forms of social stratification. Maybe you call caste system, class system. It may be language based. And why not? Maybe you talk about IQ. Over the days, it may be EQ, emotional quotient. That becomes parameter. So the criteria changes. It's not mere, the age, gender based also, the racial segregation also, ethnicity based also, ethnicity based also. Come on. So it's that way. So movement of individual or group from one social stratum to another, where it is, that allowed freely, the social mobility is maximum, and it is restricted, social mobility is zero. You might be aware. So it is generally perceived that open society allows the mobility, social mobility, movement of people, movement of individual or social group to another, the social stratum to a great extent, whereas closed society justifies its inequality in the distribution of means of production. Even the caste system justifies. The caste dharma says, maybe if you are strictly adhering to the caste dharma, the rituals and ceremonies, probably strict observance of the caste-based dharma, maybe in your next birth, rebirth, probably you'll get upper birth. Like lower birth, middle birth, upper birth. No? The caste dharma, justification. But sheer violation of, that rejection of inherent human potential we are talking about. Of course, that beginning was fantastic. Later it became rigid. There we are talking about, oppression, suppression. The people got victimized. That's a different scenario. Fortunately, if you're born in upper caste, okay. But if you're born in lower caste, think about. And even Gupta society, there came one section of population beyond this caste system. Chandalas, the old Tamil movies. Pavi Chandala, in Selbangali, Kanamal, I think, that Kanambal. Some, the scripts that way, people from other states you may not be knowing. The Chandalas, outcast, we're talking about. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So, that the closed society, that inequality is getting justified. You're born in the caste because of your pava, punya, karma, dharma, the fate, all those. You talk about all those things, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, that the distribution of means of production, status symbols, and power positions, and discourages any attempt to change them. That you will be discouraged from changing, as if you're going against the established order, because you'll be conditioned culturally in such a way so that you never question the status quo also. Eh? The brainwashed in such a way, as if that you are doing wrong the moment you question everything. In the name of obedience, in the name of adherence, strict adherence to the caste dharma, you are tamed in such a way. You never question. Of course, thanks to that the Western concepts, rationalization came, the scientific temperament came. People started questioning. Of course, the byproducts of French Revolution, liberty, equality, fraternity. The Western educated individuals started, that writing, that practicing rationalization, scientific temperament. That people started questioning everything. ஏன் என்ற கேள்வி இங்கு கேட்காமல் வாழ்க்கை இல்லை. That's MJR song. You started questioning everything. நான் என்ற எண்ணம் கொண்ட மனிதன் வாழ்ந்ததில்லை. Hello, ahankar. You can't survive. Of course, we are talking about all these things. It's only fun part. Ladies and gentlemen, come on. You start question everything. Don't simply accept. Question everything. Experience everything. Don't just carry forward. Even the world of social network we are living in, we simply indulge in character assassination, not even knowing the truth. We simply carry forward the fake news. Of course, be aware of all those negativity on the part of social network, because social media has become selfish medium. Ladies and gentlemen, question everything, but you can't do everything in the closed society. You can't go against the establishment, the closed, rigid society. We talk that way. Ladies and gentlemen, let me take you to the next level. What is that? So in closed system, of course, like the caste system, individuals, which is said to be rigid otherwise, individuals are assigned their place in the social structure on the basis of ascriptive criteria. Because I told you, I think already, when we talk about the status is nothing but the social position of an individual, the society or social structure. The status, otherwise, in its dynamism, is called role. What is a role? The expected behavior of a particular status. As a teacher, you are supposed to teach status. As a teacher, you are supposed to teach, that's role. As a teacher is the status. As a teacher, you are supposed to teach, that's role. The expected behavior out of that particular status we are talking about. But that status could be, that status given to you, or status which you earned in your lifetime. The status which you can change in your lifetime. Ascribed status and achieved status I'm talking about. The status is given to you, the gender, the age. If you're 20 this year, next year, but the same day, you should become 21. Maybe if you sleep in the oxygen chamber, probably, that the rate with which, the dead cells are getting replaced may go slow. Maybe, that the 20.8, I don't know. But in future, it's going to be, that oxygen chamber. It's like there already mineral water came. There'll be, that oxygen chamber everywhere to have good oxygen, of course, given the pollution. Of course, we talk about, the ascriptive status based on age, gender, race, caste. But achieved status which you earn in your lifetime, the application of energy, the health, wealth, knowledge. You can become millionaire or billionaire if you're determined to work hard and have strong team. Use your brain. எங்க அண்ணா சொல்வார், மதியும் நிதியும் ஒண்ணு, மதி இல்லாதவங்க கிட்ட நிதி இருக்காதுடா அப்படிம்பார். If you have brain, you can have everything. And beyond that, what is the use of money? That's important. It's not, that we should not live with, mere greedy people for the sake of, that's what happening with Rajinikanth, I believe. It's not, for the sake of somebody else, greedy, that, that you push yourself. At the end of the day, that you should be moved by value system. There should be a vision, there should be a mission. It's not mere, material things. That's on the way. The role of material, the money is, the tool, instrument, not the end. It's a mean, not an end. You should know. காதிருந்த ஊசியும் வாராதுகான் கடைவழிக்கே. We are keep on talking about it. Ladies and gentlemen, come back. So the status can be mixed, which is given to you, which you earn in your lifetime. As an individual, you got combination of statuses. But what happened in the closed system, you are always valued in terms of the status is given to you, attributed to you, ascribed to you. The status is maybe based on your age, your birth in a particular caste, maybe our gender. Even today you talk about low status of women, the sexual assault on women, how women are discriminated. Even today you are talking about gender injustice. Even we are yet to pass one third of reservation for women, and even given reservation also not properly executed. In some village sarpanch, that the women are that are not allowed to sit on par with that upper caste men, especially the Dalit women. That's happening. Though we have given that that 50% of reservation form, we are talking about in the local bodies. Some states gone next level. They've given 60% also. But practice, otherwise there will be proxy rule on paper. Based on the male people are respected, the women are not. You think about other things, transgender. That we are talking that way. So closed system, you are that evaluated, you are respected, you are given that accorded status based on ascript status, not your achievement taken into account. Otherwise it's sheer rejection of your inherent human potential. All liberty, equality, fraternity, the individualism, privacy, human rights, fundamental rights, everything gone there. The collectivism dominates. Collectivism is more than individualism. The collectivism justifies, reinforces, the traditionalizes, the ascriptive status. That's what closed system we are talking about. So the dominant values, whereas the dominant values the open system emphasize is different. They emphasize on equality, the freedom of individual, and change, innovation. There is no next level without innovation, without creativity, without change. If you want to enter into 21st century, that demands your next avatar, next version of yourself. Don't live with the past. It's not giving up the past. Learn out of the past. Understand the present. Plan for the future. Come on, be determined, ladies and gentlemen. It may get delayed, but you can't be denied. It makes slow and steady wins the race. Why hasty? I've seen a lot of guys, people who start with you may not finish with you. People who start with you may not finish with you. Let me remind you. You understand, that you have to understand the value system. That expects the dominant values on the part of open system, the open society, which is to be, the flexible society, where free movement of people from, one stratum to another, especially the class system, the knowledge-based society. The meritocracy is, the practice here. You respect, the humanity based on inherent potential. Because we gone to the next level. Why humanity? Even you try to apply the principle, standards, value system, even to the non-human environment, where we are talking about environmental ethics. Be kind to every kind, not only mankind. You've gone beyond that level. It is that way, ladies and gentlemen. So the openness, the ready to face the challenges, innovative, that ready to change also, because change is permanent. We are talking about. You respect equality, gender justice, transgender justice, respecting the freedom or privacy of every individual. And also, the taking into account the vulnerability of, that we've gone to next level, from equality to equity. You understand unique problems on the part of every sections of population. We talk that way, ladies and gentlemen. So then come back, caste system explained by, the very Western sociologists and intellectuals as a perfect example of closed system. That's what, India, the unique feature, the caste system. Indians are not casting their votes, they're voting their caste. Politicians are, that sustaining this, that criteria. Why? For vote bank politics, identity politics. You might be aware. Even Rajni Kothari mentions. That's gone to next level, casteism. They all are polarizing only, whether you identity politics, whether it is language, caste, religion, that the regionalism, the racism, whatever it may be. It's dividing people, polarizing people. Because we are talking about. You can never bring people together by dividing. That's getting further subdivided in terms of if you get into one caste, there will be subcaste then. Oh my God, I've seen a lot of examples. I'm tired of it. Please, you don't get into that, that you don't need. Caste system, rigidity, social mobility is zero, but there are exceptions, as per M.N. Srinivas, Sanskritization, Westernization. You might be aware. So the Western Indologists like, Louis Dumont, who has written the book called Homo Hierarchicus. Even he talks about, the binary opposition principle when it comes to the caste system. One opposing another. Purity, pollution. Purity, opposite pollution. Binary opposition principle. Otherwise, he wrote the Homo hierarchicus. He also spoke about dominant caste in a particular locality. And joined with, immense universe. You might be aware. So Western Indologists like Louis Dumont, using structuralist perspective, Homo hierarchicus, as I told you, presented the static and timeless image of Indian society. Indian society is static. And that even our own, the British colonizers, they were given this particular research study. And that starting from Jones, the Asiatic Society, that the very historians, that wrote, have rewritten the history in favor of, the British exploitation. The Indians are not, pro changes, the static people. It is that way. But that may not be right also. That's what we criticize Indologists. Got the idea, no? It is that way, that to condition, to traditionalize. It is that way. Maybe, that the strong cultural root we had, they misunderstood. That because that's a strong root. The moment you lose your language, you lose your culture. When culture goes, the blueprint of the society goes gone. They attacked first language, the Macaulay systems, the English education, Lord Macaulay, you might be aware. That so by the introduction of English language, ultimately they made Indians to feel, inferior to the British, English language. Even today, you see, if you speak fantastic English in your rural area, people think, English is a mere language. It's a tool. That's all. English is not knowledge. What you're going to do with English, that matters a lot. The mere, you may be good at communication. That's all. That doesn't mean. And think about, the Japanese people, Russian people, Chinese people. Of course, maybe if you're good at English, maybe English educated engineers, that's why, that the BPO, KPO, the outsourcing happening, that's fantastic, okay. But what you are going to do with that English, that matters, we are talking about. But even today, Segapa இருக்கிறவன் பொய் சொல்ல மாட்டான், English பேசுறவன்லாம் புத்திசாலி, there are wrong notions like that. So of course, what happened, that inferiority on the part of, that by seeing English, when Indians felt, that inferior to subordinate, subjugated to that, the English language, situation became quite ripe for, British colonizers. They tried to, destroy the strong root of India, culture of India, by destroying, language, because language is the vehicle of the culture. Even against anti-Hindi agitation, this way, the parallelism drawn. You have to preserve the culture, the unity in diversity. It's not destroying the unity in diversity. When you destroy language, you destroy the culture. The multiculturalism, cultural pluralism, of course. That even Sir Rabindranath Tagore deadly against that unity by uniformity. Rather, he spoke in favor of unity by diversity. All those stuffs we're talking about. That. So that's what we are talking about. That demands your intellectualism. That demands your, that learning. That demands, there comes the role of education to transform you. We are talking about, otherwise, you'll be taking asylum in, the traditional faith. Ultimately, you will be misled. There are guys waiting there to use you. Come on, don't fall prey. We are talking about, so Western Indologists like Louis Dumont, using structuralist perspective, presented the static and timeless image of Indian society and concluded the caste system is extremely rigid. You come to know, where social mobility is zero. People are not allowed to move freely. Not only individuals, even social groups, collectivity too. However, M.N. Srinivas claimed that Sanskritization provided the basis for social mobility. As he said, Sanskritization is a process where lower caste people imitating the lifestyles of upper caste people. Upper caste people happen to be Brahmins, whose language happened to be Sanskrit. And later, he used in the beginning, Brahmanization. Also, you might be aware. In some places, there are different models. Kshatriyization. In some people, especially, that nearby the Jammu, Islamization. The people in Jammu, the Sikhs, that predominantly influenced by Islam culture, the neighborhood. So different models in different parts of India. Tribalization in some places. We are talking about, corollary to this particular concept. But here, M.N. Srinivas, in his case study, the Kurk study, he took into account this Sanskritization. So that offers only cultural change, not structural change. Maybe some acceptance by upper caste, especially when it comes to lower caste people, the non-Brahmins. That happened, he witnessed. Of course, even that may happen because of westernization also. So, but the process was very slow and operated at, the group level, in 2 to 3 generation. It's not radical. Happened 2 to 3 generation. When it comes to that immediate the Kshatriya, the Vaishya community, that they are in favor of that Sanskritization, not Shudra. They got anti-Brahmanical stand. Of course, they've got other way. As I said, when it comes to reservation, they want to go for that use that Dalit identity. When it comes to social status, they're ready to go for religious conversion, either Christianity or Islam, or ready to marry even that the girls of upper castes. That's also happening. Yeah, that's the reality I'm talking about. That's true. You can't rule out. Come on, you talk to your friends, they talk to your locality. You will come to know more. Ladies and gentlemen, C.H. Cooley, Charles H. Cooley, who spoke about looking glass self-concept, you might be aware, he too claimed that Vedic times, Varna appeared to be like open class society. Because that, see, the Dravidian culture, of course, the very Indus Valley civilization where you witness, that the very first urbanization, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, everything you talk about. The Vedic society was, very open society where women were allowed to participate in Sabha Samiti. The later Vedic period, of course, of course, if at all talk about the emergence of caste system, it was based on division of labor. The later Vedic period, the very caste system got crystallized. There came all those, the oppression, suppression, rigidity, everything. That got worsened over the days. That's different scenario. It was based on division of labor. It was functional those days, of course. So that is why, C.H. Cooley, Charles H. Cooley, gone to the extent of saying the Vedic times, Varna, Varnashrama Dharma, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, what you are talking about. Varna means color. But of course, here Varnashrama Dharma, they are talking about, on the base of purity pollution. That was, it was like open class society. Mobility was there. Freedom was there. So that's the observation. You see the exceptional cases. The class system of stratification is perceived as an open society because the class system, it's one of the forms of social stratification where your status is based on your ownership over economic resources. Where we talk about, that maybe this way, let me simply explain this. Maybe, upper class, middle class, lower class. There comes, that the people like Lloyd Warner, upper, middle, upper, middle. That's 6 types of classification. You got a variety of classes. But whereas Karl Marx took into account only polarization of classes like haves, have-nots. Whatever may be, the class system is also called one of the forms of social stratification. People are stratified based on the ownership over economic resources. Accordingly, you are called, that lower class, middle class, upper class. The role of, that the emergence of or role of middle class is very crucial in country like India. They are, with purchasing power, they are capable of making developing country into developed nation. You might be able. Even today, we associated with, young demographic dividend with middle class population. Different scenario. I'm sorry. It is that way. Give me 1 second, please. Let me have. I drink more water in front of you. I'm sorry. You can also refresh yourself, please. I'm sorry. Yes. So it allows, what is the point? The class system of stratification is perceived as an open society, as a process, that the fast, but it is very fast. It's not very slow like Sanskritization, and operated at individual level. Got the idea, na? You become source of inspiration, role model. You know that you got a lot of people like that. You talk about Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, Jeff Bezos, Jack Ma, Steve Jobs, and of course from Indian context, Satya Nadella, of course Sundar Pichai, Indira Nooyi. Talk about that the entrepreneurs, of course. We talk about the Infosys family, of course. That Narayana Murthy, Nandan Nilekani. We are talking about so many people like that. So that's that of course social mobility, the clear-cut examples of social mobility we are talking about. A lot of guys, that one the Bharat matrimony, I believe Tamil matrimony guy, Kanagaraj, I believe, I don't know the name at all. There are several people like that C.K. Kumaravel of Naturals and his brother, the Chini Radha Krishnan. Clear-cut example for entrepreneurship. I'm talking about even Arun Ice Cream. But I'm talking about entrepreneurial angle. After that, I'm not knowing much about their investments. By someone else, I don't know. I'm sorry about that. When it comes to expansion of the business, I don't know. Got the idea? Come back. We are talking about it. Maybe entrepreneurship. Of course, class system, the mobility we are talking about. So it allows the mobility, that in both intergenerational and intragenerational. Got the idea, na? The mobility could be maybe, that between generation. The dad may be just teacher, son may be engineer, or daughter may be engineer. Maybe the third generation may be, that a district collector. Then ultimately, that becoming MP. The fourth generation may be, that MP or union minister. Maybe that way. It is that way we are talking about intergeneration, but intrageneration within a generation, as we speak in the case of, that Sundar Pichai or even Bill Gates we are talking about, of course. And of course, that intra-generation, within a generation, of course, Prime Minister Modi ji would have witnessed. Dr. Kalam would have witnessed. We're talking about that way. So it could be intergeneration, between generation or within a generation. But in class system, within a generation is highly realistic. I'm talking about it. Maybe if you're a determined entrepreneur, you can make it. But if you're doing it in the right way, if you're respecting the value system of the society, it will take definitely 10 to 15 years. But if you are ready to float norms, ready to rope in money, the black money, everything, it can be done within 5 years. After 5 years, you are no more. By the time there, that there'll be, the gang waiting there to, that kill you, murder you, or you yourself will be forced to commit suicide. That's happening in the outside world. You know what's happening. Karma theory works. But if you're following, the righteousness, dharma, it will take its own time. Yeah, great things will take time. Empire building process. Yes, open systems of mobility. We are talking about open systems mobility is generally characterized by occupational diversity. We are talking about. Because you got specialization. The division of labor leads to specialization. When the society is becoming large and complex, there will be division of labor, which is complex. That leads to specialization. We are talking about. So that diversity of occupation and also flexible hierarchy. You see there are a lot of that CEOs of the corporate companies coming with shorts to the company. They're more bothered about your the product, your contribution than those rituals and ceremonies, because it's a product orientation, not process orientation. But Japanese management's emphasis on process orientation, that's different. So differentiated social structure and rapidity of change. The emphasis given on innovation, creativity, the strengthening R&D. That's that out of box thinking. You might be aware. That's what open system. That where mobility is. That maximum you talk about. The fluid society, flexible society, where the modern industrial, advanced post-industrial society, where you witness that kind of that the mobility we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. However, Karl Marx argued that even society with class stratification doesn't allow social mobility. He talks about, because there are restrictions, the created, the barriers created by the people who already come up in life. They want to scuttle your efforts. How long they will scuttle? After, once you become unstoppable, you are unstoppable. Let me say, there is a saying in Tamil, "ஞாயிற்றை கையில் மறைப்பாரில்." You can't hide, that the sun by keeping your, the hands in front of your eyes like this. Sun is the source of energy for everyone. ஞாயிற்றை கையில் மறைப்பாரில்லை. If you keep your eyes in front of your, if you keep your, hands in front of your eyes and says that, I பூனை கண்ணை மூடிக்கிட்டா பூலோகமே இருண்டுடுச்சுன்னு நினைப்பு. The cat will close its eyes, it will say the whole world is dark now. We should not be in that ignorance. We might be aware. So it's that way we are talking about, that the moment you are determined to achieve something, that nobody can stop you. So the Karl Marx, that says, but there were some barriers erected by the people who have come up, that in life to maintain their supremacy in that particular stature or elitism. The Karl Marx, that even the American society, Europe society, why even in the morning discussion I quoted that, when there came, that every district is going to have, there will be one medical college. The restriction, of course, the protest came from, the medical fraternity. The medical college students came up for strike. You might be aware. Now they are fighting for reservation. The PG, that's different scenario. Why, that like engineering colleges, that they came up in life, mushrooming of engineering colleges or self-financed engineering colleges came up in Tamil Nadu, more than 500 plus. That diluted the very status of engineering. No, that's wrong. That is why a lot of IT companies are here. A lot of North Indian students coming and studying here. A lot of that engineers from South India ultimately getting employment in different parts of the world, part of IT. Might be aware. And what happened, right? This medical fraternity in the beginning, I'm saying, that now they would have understood, that they would have realized their mistakes. I believe. What happened, that they want to maintain that elitism Of course, otherwise, that they are against commercialization, as happened in the case of, that the very engineering colleges, self-finance colleges we are talking about. Without infrastructure, without quality, there are a lot of students coming out of, the engineering colleges without even completing the degree. You might be aware. There are no takers nowadays. வீட்டுக்கு ஒரு மரம் இல்ல, வீட்டுக்கு ஒரு engineer. You know well. So the same way, medical fraternity, they do not want to see what happened in the engineering world, the medical fraternity. Of course, that they came, that from sociology angle, from social stratification angle, from social mobility angle, it may be called as a barrier, restriction erected by, the very, medical fraternity we are talking about, maybe medical college students. So Karl Marx argued that even society with class stratification doesn't allow social mobility. Restrictions keep that eminent position always. It should be the select few dominating the sphere. We're talking about, that, but I'm that in favor of other way around. What is that? There should be more number of medical colleges, more doctors should come out, that from, all states, all districts. Ultimately, we can also export, doctors to different countries in the world, especially underdeveloped and developing countries in the world. Let them send remittances back to the nation. Come on, why don't you think, open up? I'm talking that way. So Frank Parkin advocated few cases of upward social mobility act like safety valve. That this mobility provides safety valve. There is no mobility, the persistent oppression, suppression, the accumulated frustration one day fine morning, it may, that burst as, that some sort of revolution that, society could not tolerate. So it's better, that all these, that upward social mobility, they act as a safety valve. That you vent out your feeling. That way we are talking about, ladies and gentlemen. Sorry, I can't. So C.W. Mills, that you might be aware, that it's American sociologists claim that the capitalist America, the top position is monopolized by power elites we are talking about. It's monopolized by power elites we are talking about. Yeah. Even, that we talk about, nepotism, favoritism, cronyism. In every quarters, that whatever may be the political party, it's time. The appointments are made. Sometimes, there comes, ultimately the crisis we are talking about. It's almost people who have come up in life, that they ultimately, that destroy the opportunities for others from entering the same level. Of course, that, but only for short span of time. This too shall pass. You have to understand, that you are unstoppable. You might be aware. But these are all instances, that the various examples by, various sociologists. Because, that even in the open society, you've got exceptional cases. The closed society, you've got exceptions we are talking about. So we talk about, that Milo and Gillas, we had argued that unprecedented, the new class of, political bureaucrats we are talking about. So dominated the state and society is not egalitarian. Got the idea? Na? So ultimately they work towards, that ultimately domination. So that, that the restrictions, that towards other sections of the population, that some sort of, barriers erected where it comes to, that other classes, trying to emulate the same. Thus, it is clear that the class society is not absolutely open. It is also closed to some extent. We are talking about thus, no society can either be absolutely open or absolutely closed. We are talking about. So, even in the most rigid systems of stratification. One second, ladies and gentlemen, please give me something maybe. Hello? Yes. Yes. Excuse me, I'm in the middle of, that live session. Can you please talk to me after 8 o'clock, please? Yeah, please, ma'am. Thank you. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I thought that was a call from Unacademy. No. Oh my God. So even in the most rigid systems of stratification, the limited degree of, the mobility exists. We are talking about most rigid systems of, limited degree of mobility. That's what sanskritization. And most open system, that discourages mobility. This is what our conclusion. I think that's clear-cut justification. Ladies and gentlemen, you got it. This is the right time. Let me take you to the next question. Ladies and gentlemen, so education is a major source of social mobility. It's a major source of social mobility in contemporary society. That you are asked to explain. That is a task. Task is explain. Got the idea? The topic, of course, social mobility. Which aspect? The sources of social mobility. Maybe one of the major sources. education. This is aspect. You got the idea, na? TAT principle. What is the context? In contemporary society, that's very important, ladies and gentlemen. We are talking about that way. So that expects what happened, right? That you are asked to explain. That the question expects you to basically clarify the topic. You clarify. Otherwise, you treat that a listener or evaluator as a layman. You are writing for someone who knows absolutely nothing about the subject or topic. You think that way. That even while teaching, this is what we instruct all our faculty members. Come on, that all the students sitting in front of that laymen, they don't know anything. Come on, you feel that superior. Come on, you teach. You should not feel inferior. You are the creator there. You are the God. To be part of the solution there. Come on, go and deliver. We used to emphasize that way. So the same way when you're trying to explain something, you should be confident enough. Of course, you commit mistakes. Later, you learn out of it. That's different scenario. Otherwise, you should not, that it's not other way around. I want you to be moderate at this point. It's not touching extreme, thinking that all students sitting there are like fools. That's very bad. That's very bad. So layman in the sense, so that your explanation will becomes, that down to the earth, more humble. That is what the idea. That you have to respect the listener. They are listening to you. You got responsibility towards them. It is not, that by arrogance. Got the idea? That's different scenario. So take moderate path, not touching the extremes. Got the idea? So you are writing for someone who knows absolutely nothing. If that is a scenario, in what way you resort to? The layman language, the simple language. You communicate in such way. Hope you blessings of the God, that humble attempt I'm making. If at all you got any, that wrong, I mean, that any feedback, you please tell me. I'm ready to alter my delivery. At the end of the day, the very purpose of the communication, that should be so. That's very important. That it's very important. It's not. I'm speaking in front of you not to prove the world that I know everything. I know about this topic. To prove the world that I made you to understand. I inspired you in such a way. That's very important. That's what the very purpose. If there is any gap, please give me the feedback. I'm ready to alter. That's the idea. Ladies and gentlemen, come back. So explain what is the point. That it's almost like explaining to the layman. It should be very simple, humble. The use of language or communication style in such a way. So to provide much detail as possible, be a detailed delivery, and to give definitions for any jargon or key terms used. It is not, that living in your own world and using all those acronyms, that the very audience may not be understanding. What is the use? The evaluator even may not be understanding from what world you came. So, whatever, that the phraseology you use there, you should be in a position to explain. It's not simply going for acronym. Maybe the first time you write, you go for acronym. Later, you can repeat that acronym because, that somewhere you are given in an expanded version. It is that way. You would have seen variety of articles that way. That you have to. There comes your responsibility in making the learner to understand, in making the evaluator to understand clearly, very clearly in a detailed manner what you say. That's what we are talking about. To explain, when I say explain, it has got that much meaning. Not only that, keep in mind whenever you try to explain something, it's almost like someone questioning you, what is this? How it is done? Why is this? Don't say, why not this? Of course, when you try to meet all these questions, probably you would have explained very clearly. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how we deal. What, why, when, how, where, the duty, impact, the purpose, the consequence, and also why not, alternative theory, the criticism. We also take into account the same way when we try to explain in front of you. Of course, that the question expects you in a similar way. Ladies and gentlemen, as this will help you to structure a clear and logically coherent response. You understand what I'm talking about? A clear, logically coherent response we are talking about. Coherence, that is extremely important in providing explanatory answers. Coherence, there should be, the fashioning of your ideas. It should not be discrete. There should be a continuity. You try to communicate a particular message by communicating various ideas. There should be a flow. It should be easy flow. It should not be, abrupt stoppages somewhere. It's not like, the discrete information, that something, juxtaposed. It should be a continuity, a free flow. You have to ensure ordering or fashioning your ideas in such a way so as to communicate a particular message. This is what we see in the essay also. Of course, because then only evaluator can understand. Fantastic. It is that way. Hope you understood, ladies and gentlemen. I think I explained the very task explained. I believe, that I did humble attempt with the blessings of God. That is, so German, let me take you to the next level. What is that? So social mobility is defined as a movement of individual or group. You know the definition because it's a new question. Another question, you have to begin this way. That's what the idea. It's not repeating the same because already social mobility, you always explain the context of social stratification. It is that way. That it talks about movement of individual, not only individual, even group from one stratum to another. You know very well. So you can never talk about social mobility without the context of social stratification, because stratification talks about whether the society is closed or open. In open society, the social mobility is maximum. In closed society, social mobility is zero. But in spite of that, we spoke about exceptions also in the previous question. Well, it is an inseparable aspect of the social stratification. They go together because that the nature, form, range, degree of social mobility depends on the very nature of social stratification. Because when we talk about social stratification as a process, you got various forms of social stratification. You got the stratification based on age, gender, we spoke already, the caste system, class system. It's based on knowledge also. In future, it may be based on not only IQ, even EQ, emotional quotient. Why not? And people say learning quotient. There are a lot of the questions that you may deliver depending upon the context we're talking about. So that education as a factor of social mobility is discussed by various school of thoughts. We are talking about as an instrument of social change. Social mobility, that it talks about progressiveness on the part of the society, the change, alteration on the part of the existing society, or towards social change, maybe culturally, structurally, functionally. Education results in transformation of individual, transformation of society as an instrument of social change. As I said in the beginning, the Qatari Committee recommendation, what is that? The future of the nation is shaped in classrooms. The value system is getting inculcated on the part of the students. The role of the teacher, not to, that mere dissemination of information. The Internet of Things, you got a lot of garbages nowadays. The value system, that guides you ultimately. What is the right information? Of course, with the Perior Tunai Kodal, with the right kind of mentorship. Of course, that your own, the great gurus, that they inculcate value system in you. Of course, you know that when the student is ready, the teacher is already ready. We are talking that way. There should be a search in you. As long as you are not ready, even the UPSC chairman comes and that teaches you, you can't get it. That demands your proactiveness, groundworks. Your search, you should be in search mode. It is that way, that the craving for knowledge, the craving, that to achieve something. Of course, when that is the situation, everything appears, that relevant to you. That you will definitely fix yourself. We are talking about. So that education plays crucial role. It's an instrument of social change that transforms you. That transforms you. It's that way we are talking about. The future of a leader is born. You stand on your own. It's not begging in front of someone else. You never lose your self-respect. That is what, the true education we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, you never lose your self-respect. You never compromise value system. Because inculcation of the value system is done by your own guru. The role of the teacher is not to teach, rather to inspire. We are talking about. That's what the role of education. But that is the case. Definitely that leads, that to social change. Not only individual change. The social change through transformation of individuals. Transformation of social groups. That leads to social change. Then society becomes, progressive, open, moves to the next level, embraces next version otherwise. But it's that way. So, it's not restricted by, the tools of the past. We're talking that way, the openness, open for challenges we are talking about. The society becomes, very creative. Even individuals becoming creative, ready to face the challenges, open-mindedness. That way we are talking about, that education opens up the vistas of your knowledge, the horizon of your knowledge we are talking about, and makes that very mature knowledge. The moment you become a man of wisdom, women of wisdom, so that you arrive at fantastic decisions guided by the value system, the ethics, the principles, the standards, so that society stays with peace, order, stability. You ensure that the sustainable development, not mere economic development. So that you are guided whenever you face situational dilemmas, the conflict of interest or situational constraints, where you are guided by the education, because that inculcated value system in you. A leader is born. It's not to work as a babu somewhere in the corporate I'm talking about. You become leader of your own version. That happens because of, that's what the true education. You never give up, never compromise. Of course, people say compromise. Compromise for the sake of what? For survival? Don't worry, you are for excellence. Never compromise. Never give up. We are talking about all this possible because of the education I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. That makes you progressive. So functionalists, structural functionalists especially, we are talking about Emile Durkheim, Talcott Parson, American structural functionalists. They establish the positive relationship between education and mobility. There is one more question in 2020 also, I'll be discussing later. Education and mobility. In what way education promotes social mobility or economic development or transformation of society, transformation of individual, opens up a lot of the possibilities, opportunities we are talking about. That may not, you may not be knowing those opportunities if you're not educated enough. I'm not talking about quantity of education, quality education. If you got quality education, you're born leader. You know that the version of leadership came already. It's not a quantity ABCD, what you write after your name. I've seen a lot of ABCDs, useless ABCDs. The guy did, PhD, not even knowing, that how to behave in a particular occasion, how to speak. And there are guys with abroad universities, good for nothing, all round violation of, the ethics and everything. A lot of politicians too, we see. That's waste. We don't want that quantity. There are leaders without titles. You don't want ABCD. What is the quality education? You stand on your own. Because the proper inculcation of the value system we are talking about. So education and social mobility, not only mobility of an individual, even mobility of the social groups and mobility of the society, the change in society, social change, transformation in society, we're talking about. So that comes, Emile Durkheim, Talcott Parsons establishing positive relationship between education and mobility. While Emile Durkheim argued about the education prepared students for taking up the future role in capitalist society. Durkheim argued about, but Parsons advocated, that he was talking about, the workers, of course, in the corporate world, the capitalist world, industrial society. The Parsons advocated that schools in capitalist America offer adequate training to the children to get into the job market in the similar way. So that is what we don't want. That's what I'm talking about. That it's other way around. The role of the education institutions not to generate, that the employees for the corporate MNCs, rather to generate leaders, entrepreneurs. It's not generating mere doctor, engineer. Are you generating human being? Wonderful human being with ethics and morality, never compromising value system. Otherwise, it's mere quantity, not quality. The quality education, whatever may be, even mere school education. That's what Karmavir or Kamaraj, the honest leader ever produced from Tamil Nadu. Of course, who rose to the great level. Kamarajar plan, you hear. People like that did a lot of wonderful things. They never accumulated resources for the family. You might be aware. Such a straightforward, honest people, the nation has seen. Kalvi Kantiranda Kamarajar, who studied up to, 5th standard. You might be aware. Unfortunately, people gone up to Harvard level. They swindled the money meant for nation, stashed away money, that as a family, and also spoiled other entrepreneurs too. We hear a lot of stories, and visited Tihar jail also. We talk about shameless people. We don't want those people we are talking about. That's quantity education. We don't want, that without value, erosion of value system. They are misleading examples. They misguide the entire youth of the nation. We don't want Harvard. We want hardworking, the patriotic individual. Keeping the nation is more than individual. That's the mind. The altruism more than, the selfish motive. We are talking about that way. So all these things, born out of value system. But Emile Durkheim, of course, capital, the very Talcott person talking about, preparing the students for taking up the future role in capitalist society. Maybe to be part of, corporate world. Or Parsons advocated, the schools in capitalist America offer adequate training, to the children to get into job market, employees. The present day education system, even new education policy, we appreciate that way. That gives you opportunity so that you become that entrepreneur of your own kind. Things will take time. Even government came up with 6% of GDP allocation we are talking about. Thanks to education for all, right to education, we're talking about. That way, several measures, we are talking about Sarva Shiksha Abhiyan, everything we did. A lot of things ultimately. Ladies and gentlemen, this is right time. Let me take you to next level. The Kingsley Davis and Wilbert E. Moore. We are talking about part of social stratification. The principles of stratification, especially in their theory of stratification, advocated that highly specialized persons get high degrees of that specialization. Highly specialized persons get high degrees of specialization and are endowed with executive qualities to fit into highly challenging and most productive occupation. So this is about effective role allocation and performance. This is what I used to say, that you got the equivalent Tirukural in Tiruvalluvar Tirukural, the colossus of Tamil literature. We are talking about the Tirukural, the timeless treasure. Of course, you are talking about what is that? Idanai idanal ivan mudikum endru ஆராய்ந்து அதனை avan கண்விடல். You need field specific knowledge, specialization. The division of labor leads to specialization. The professional courses, special kind of knowledge definitely needed, no doubt at all. To identify right person for the right post, you need system of stratification. That's what the justification. So education facilitates to identify right kind of people. That's fantastic. It is not expecting that a doctor to build that a great industry or factory, and expecting that engineer to do that heart surgery. No, it's not at all. Right person for the right post we are talking about. It is that way. So management by delegation, even identify, it is that way. There comes the role of stratification. Even the education plays crucial role in terms of division of labor, in terms of specialized knowledge. Of course, this is here also you attain unity by diversified occupations we talk about. It is that way. That so the entire teams should be important. The sufficient information about the whole project in that way, by dissemination of information or awareness. We are talking that way. So they are instrumental in economic progress. The education plays crucial role. Of course, economists, new education policy, economic reforms. You should understand, the global state system, liberalization, privatization, globalization. It's not living, that with Hindu growth rate, as Raj, the Krishna coined the terminology. Of course, liberalization, we were heading towards double-digit GDP. You might be aware, because of that economic reforms, and what we see, the change with continuity. Even today, we talk about that World Economic Forum giving the positive the signal about Indian economy, the recovery, speedy recovery. That's fantastic news. Even that the Gopinath, Geeta Gopinath, the chief economist of IMF, speaking in positive note. We are talking about, so the education facilitates through various theories. You understand, that the role of market forces, in what way all sectors of economy can be manipulated, so that the production, consumption, distribution of goods and services, so that takes the nation's GDP to the next level. In what way it can be done? Of course, that there comes, we are talking about, you try to understand the nuances, nitty-gritties on the part of that running the economy of the nation or global economy. We talk about that place, that specialized knowledge by specialists. There comes role of education. So that leads to economic progress. It's because of new economic policy introduced in India. We were heading towards double-digit GDP. But because of the global recession 2008, after that situation came down, that's different scenario. And now it got worsened because of the COVID crisis. Now the recovery is faster in India. That's different scenario. And also social development of the nation. It's not mere economic development, concomitant social development, and without compromising environmental sustainability. All this consciousness. Why? It's because of the balanced life that has got its own root in that ethicality, morality, the value system inculcated by the educational institute. We're talking that way. We're talking that way. It's not growth of few. It's not compromising other factors. It is inclusive governance. We're talking about it without indulging in social exclusion. We're talking that way. Ladies and gentlemen, that plays, education, the crucial role, that leads to social mobility we are talking about. As a result, the values like self-orientation, individualism, achievement, competition, universalism, innovation, conformity to legal provisions of the society, law-abiding citizen, and equality has predominated the thought of every generation. Got the idea? Na? Now we have gone to the next level. More than law, we are talking about ethics without compromising law. You are supposed to practice, the basic human values like compassion. Sorry. You've gone to that level, ladies and gentlemen. So it's not only, all these values ultimately what happen, the current generation talking about that. Individualism, privacy, self-orientation, of course, achievement, competition, universalism, everything what we are talking about, that's fantastic towards economic development, of course. But beyond that, we expect collective orientation, keeping in mind it's not conflicting with the collective orientation. That should be the idea. We parallelly talk about it. So the bearings of modern education on social mobility are studied in great detail by Goldthorpe. This Goldthorpe already spoke about the concept called embourgeoisement. When Karl Marx was talking about haves, have-nots, he spoke about the emergence of middle class. But according to Karl Marx, he was quite pessimistic about middle class that can't survive for long. Probably that may come down and joining the proletariats. It's called proletarianization. ஏழை பரம ஏழையாதல். But whereas Max Weber was in favor of expanding middle class. But this particular process is said by Goldthorpe as embourgeoisment. We spoke already. So so the Max Weber took that optimistic view about emerging middle class or expanding middle class. Well. So that it is that way. So so the bearing of modern education on social mobility. Got the idea, na? So Western educated, that the people got exposed to that IIT, IIM, education. They become part of management, the top level position. So they may not be worker or they may not be owners. They may be in between. But given exploitative nature of capitalism, according to Karl Marx, they will also fall the line of proletariats. That's different scenario. But the think about Satya Nadella, Sundar Pichai, Indra Nui, like people that shares in the company, the resources they accumulated, they are not that owners, but they are not workers. But with the accumulated money, they may become entrepreneur. That's different scenario. So the modern education offers that the opportunity, the social mobility. That's the studied in detail by Goldthorpe we are talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, collecting data from industrially developed societies. The very Goldthorpe talking about, he finds out that how education contributed to the 60% of working class. Hello, in India, the GDP we are talking about, that the 55% of GDP contribution from service sector, especially the outsource, especially in the export of software, where you have to thank the mushrooming of engineering colleges in South India, a lot of engineers working in IT company. So you make a lot of products part of IT company and support and service, even outsource, PPO, KPO, everything. There are other service sectors too I'm talking about. So predominantly the influence we earn, that gave a push to Indian economy. And without getting saturation in the manufacturing sector, straight away we jumped into the service sector because English educated engineers, especially from South India. What is that way? So education in what way, that took part in the nation's development. This is another idea you can compare with Indian case study. Of course, what is that? But what we are discussing, according to Goldthorpe, industrially developed societies, that he finds out how education contributed to the 60% of working class children to get into supervisory and semi-skilled occupational position. It talks about employment generation, placement of individuals. From that note, talks about opportunity, mobility, jobs, employment generation, purchasing power. They create more demands in the market. Economy moves to the next level because of that. That way, even today, that's what India, the boon, demographic dividend we are talking about. Young population, if they are properly enabled, they become that they come up that as graduates, that they get employment ultimately with purchasing power. They create more demands in the market. That will boom. That will take the economy to the next level. But if we don't enable them, it will become demographic disaster. That's what Imagining India, Nathan Nilekani emphasizes. You might be aware. From liability to asset, the population is no more liability. It's called asset. No country became developed country without the support of this demographic dividend. You see the bubbles everywhere. If you analyze the developed countries, history, that you come to know. We are talking that way. The role of enablement is very crucial. That's possible only through education. The social sector allocation should be done properly, combined together. 12%. That's why emphasis we are talking about. Fortunately, in education, through new education policy, we are talking about 6% of GDP. What about that another 6% in health sector? And given COVID situation, at least we have to wake up to the reality. So it's not mere 1.5%. Among Brazil, among BRIC countries, India's investment is very low. This is the right time we have to think more. And for that, we have to come out of this. The speedy recovery done, probably we may think more. Of course, let's see the forthcoming budget, what is in store. Of course, economic survey came, you might be aware. So thus education has been considered as the prime source of mobility, you might be understanding. Ladies and gentlemen, it is an instrument, transformation of society, transformation of individual, an instrument of social change that leads to social mobility, social progress. A lot of case studies, of course, we took into account, that. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, this is right time. Not only that, the Pierre Bourdieu we are talking about, who contradicted this argument. In his theory of the social and cultural reproduction, he asserts that education preaches equality but practices the reinforcement of hierarchy and inequality. Yeah, the people who already came up, to the greater position, they that they are not, that they never open up. They don't allow others to enter into them. They scuttle others' efforts otherwise. It is reinforcing, that the people, rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. Even to reach, that abroad education or higher education, the moment you finish your diploma or graduation, already in pursuit of job, you go after to fulfill your basic needs of your family members. But people who are well off, they go for, high, the PG education, abroad education, or, they join premier institution ultimately. What happened, right? That rich gets richer, poor gets poorer. Even the affluence favors only, that the high class people. The high affluence of high class people ultimately, that ensures access to, that higher and research education. So that's once again, that reinforcing already existing social inequality. So that's according to Pierre Bourdieu we are talking about. That's contradiction. It is theory of social and cultural reproduction. It is reinforcing the already existing social inequality. Even education becomes, becomes another tool of exploitation otherwise. That's what I said. The Harvard educated guy, a politician indulging in corruption, in the sense, what is the meaning? Not even Harvard, nothing will change him. Because, the makeup itself wrong, faulty product. It is that way we are talking about. What is the use of abroad education, Oxford, Cambridge, that all those, Harvard education, if you indulge in. For that, why you went there? It is that way we are talking about. A person, got educated only up to 5th standard, became, rose to that, honest level, Karma Veerar Kamaraj. It is that way we are talking about. What is the use? So even this abroad or modern or research-based education becomes additional tool in furtherance of, that to further their own exploitative measures. It is reinforcement of hierarchy and inequality or indulging in all corrupt measures. This is what correct. This is also true relatively we are talking about. It's contradicting the earlier view, what we spoke, the Davies and Moore. So the children belonging to upper class having, the control over economic, cultural and social capital, upper class, affluence. We are talking about, enter into high profitable occupations because, network will be more. Even that guy just finishing graduation, hey, commander, where are you? Yeah, I'm just doing, wasting time whiling around here. Come there. You become one of the board of directors. It's probably this guy is, net worth of some crores. Maybe he has got, the friends of, from crorepathies. Ultimately, that he needed just company, that who can listen to him. That's all. He'll be made one of the directors. That way, that why? Because that association started from, the school days. The pressure, the peer group we are talking about of similar, class, or maybe the family network, social network, similar cultural network. Yes, that works lobbying ultimately. So the children belonging to upper class having control over economic and cultural social capital enter into high profitable occupations. It is that way. The thinking will be different. They won't talk about, survival. Their thinking will be in terms of, generation of resources. Otherwise, it's a paradigm shift. If my dad is making, that this 100 crore turnover within, that India, why I should not replicate the same process elsewhere, different parts of the world? Let me make it 1,000 crores. Let me make it 10,000 crores. Let me involve more teams. Let me involve technology. If I'm running short of, resources for that particular purpose, maybe let me get the help of, financial institution. Let me use my, that political nexus. That is what. But of course, even Vijay Mallya started that way. He's extravagant, he indulged in corruption. That's a different scenario. Even Nirav Modi. But if you do it in the right means, it's possible. But that favors only people who are already affluent enough. So that's what, that survival mode versus excellence mode. When you are for great, how come you can settle with mere good? So the change in mentality, the differential mentality I'm talking about. So that goes with, that opportunity structures. Otherwise, the lifestyle mechanism, it is that way. It is that way we are talking about. It's not for survival, it's for excellence. So naturally, it is getting legitimized. What happened? Occupations and this success is legitimized by the school we are talking about. So opportunity structures in such a way reinforcing already existing hierarchy or inequality we are talking about. And also education offers, that no scope for mobility and mass education given to masses, but exclusive education is important for job market is monopolized by upper classes, because this mass education leads to only survival mode. That that the specialization, field specific knowledge leads to that heavy demand in the job market, professional courses, of course, that's monopolized by upper classes or even upper middle class we are talking about. That goes the education, that it's this is almost like conflict school of thought, the Karl Marx opinion, like education becomes additional tool in the hands of exploiters to reinforce already existing social inequality or hierarchy structure or opportunity structure we are talking about. So that works in favor of that monopolization of upper class we are talking about. So the argument of Bourdieu is supported by Bowles and Gintis we are talking about, other sociologists joining the very efforts of that Pierre Bourdieu we are talking about, who advocated that schools in capitalist America are class based than egalitarian we are talking about. Why even private schools in India that way? That is why, Right to Education Act talking about even private management schools should give 25% of reservation for people from downtrodden. What happened in Karnataka? Some schools, that those children belonging to downtrodden community were asked to, that go for a different kind of haircut for discrimination. That happened. That happened. Are you aware? That came in editorials, Hindu. Law as an instrument of social change, but the people's mentality, it's different. We are talking about that way, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, it's class. In India, it can be done with private schools versus corporate schools, government schools. You witness that way. Of course, we also say another example. What is that? If that a rich teacher teaching poor students, it's government school. You get idea what I'm talking about? Rich teacher teaching poor students, it's a government school. Poor teacher teaching rich students, it's private school. Hello, you understand that way? I think this is enough. So this is what schools in India, of course, we are talking about. Rich teacher, teaching poor students in government school, because that he has got resources, income, he won't teach anything except there are dedicated teachers parallel. It is right time for me to recall my own the teachers, dedicated teachers. Let me salute them, but not like that. So out of 30 people, one or two like that. Remaining 28, 30 people in the schools simply getting salary, not taking classes, not guiding students, and they've got other businesses. They will come and sign. They won't handle. I've seen a lot of bad teachers too. They don't have passion. They want just maybe by promotion they would have got all these things, bad things, bad role models. You might be aware. I'm not speaking bad. The reality. What I'm talking about. That's ultimately that I know what happened to their children too. I've seen how their kids are. Karma theory worked. But whereas good teachers, their kids are fantastic. Their hard work never, of course, somewhere, you get justification by karma theory. The consequences, the nishkama karma, essence of Bhagavad Gita worked. I see. If you're not passionate, please don't enter into teaching profession. That's what, because, it's said to be, that Elutharivithavan Iraivan. You're going to guide. It's a great responsibility I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, so you got, so many professions out there to earn money. Come on, don't spoil that profession. It's a greatest honorable position. Even Dr. Kalam said he wanted to be identified as a teacher, then Rashtrapati. He might be, but then as a scientist. Even Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan, whose birthday is being celebrated, September 5th, we are talking about Teachers' Day. Mada, Pita, Guru, Devam, we are talking about. Matru Devo Bhava, Pitru Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Aditi Devo Bhava. We are talking about, the position of role of teacher. Of course. So it provides that the least opportunity for mobility we are talking about. Least opportunity. for mobility, that's according to Pierre Bourdieu. We are talking about education. The children belonging to lower class get into lower privilege school and subsequently get into low paid jobs. Survival mode I'm talking about. So Andre Beetle, there comes another sociologist, in his article advocates that how it is not the principle of equality or economic interest or search for the mobility that put people into that schools. Rather, entry into school and success into school is greatly defined by family, kinship, religion, and other cultural variables. Got the idea? No? The clutches of other factors we are talking about. The nature of the family, the way with which you give importance to the education, your relative structure accordingly, the religion, that also influenced by religion I'm talking about. When it comes to women, that Islam, the low status of women, that you don't see much educated women in Islam. Low status of women, of course. Yes. Very few scholars we are talking about. Of course, people like, the Taslima Nazrin Lajja, she was given fatwa by Ayatollah Khomeini, you might be aware. That goes with the religion also. The progress, the social mobility, you might be aware. Other cultural variables, cultural conditioning, the ruralness, urban character, of course, the traditional agrarian setup, the custom bound, that goes with nature of the caste also. Of course, a lot of that. So ultimately, that's influenced by other social denominators we are talking about. It's that way, as that as per Andre Beetle, you might be aware. Ladies and gentlemen, the role of education in encompassing mobility cannot be universally similar. That varies from place to place, time to time, religion to religion, caste to caste, country to country, rural to urban, developed country to developing country to underdeveloped country. Why not? In every society, various forms of compulsions, institutional conditions, value system, will be determining to what extent, in what forms of education has successfully contributed to the mobility. That varies. It's not, that uniform. It's not a balanced way. You see, that variance. That is what the point, that it's not, that absolute, that the standard you witness everywhere. Ladies and gentlemen, I think, that we spent that our time in a fantastic manner. Of course, this is in continuation of the the morning session too. Of course, the previous session, part 2. Of course, that the remaining 2 questions we discuss, of course, it is centered around the topic called social mobility in the context of social stratification. You can never talk about social mobility without touching the context called social stratification. The social stratification, which talks about various forms of social stratification, caste system, class system. Accordingly, you talk about whether the society is open or closed. No society is that the clear cut open or clear cut the closed society, that you might be aware. The social mobility, that you also witness the that the very closed system of social stratification, that the social mobility is absent or restricted even in the open that system of stratification that we witness. And also the methodology we shared, what is that methodology? The question is no more question, because you practice the tat. It's not a tattoo, tat. What is the tat? In every question, I want you to locate the topic and understand the aspect of the topic to be very relevant. When you want to make it, the answers very relevant. Not only that, addressing the very in the task of the question. They examine, evaluate. We gave you clear-cut explanation also, ladies and gentlemen. You travel through various perspectives from different sociologists and case studies to justify. Ladies and gentlemen, that this is my humble attempt. Of course, ladies and gentlemen, with the blessings of the God-given opportunity, so that I interacted with you. Of course, it's my the foundation for you. You can build superstructure based on that. For that, you please consult the resources, ignore materials, NCRTs, and also books. Harlambas, wonderful. The orange book, especially social stratification unit, is fantastic. When it comes to Indian society, please go for Dipankar Gupta, social stratification by Dipankar Gupta I'm talking about, where that the articles written by M.N. Srinivas, Andre Beetle, Louis Dumont, G.S. Gurye, very relevant I'm talking about. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, that these resources are more than sufficient. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, that 2020 question, I say, that when it comes to sociology, the optional subject, which is very popular, highly scoring, please try to solve all the previous year questions, especially the last 5-year questions. 80 to 85% of the questions getting repeated. So otherwise, divide a day in terms of 2 parts. First part for question solving, second part for your conventional reading. But I want you to balance a day in terms of your optional preparation, general studies preparation, the balance between prelims cum mains, balance between preparation and notes taking, balance between notes taking and revision, balance between general studies and current affairs, balance between static portion and current affairs portion. What else? Don't complicate. This is simple process. You're going to become IAS, IPS. That's all. That's just the beginning. Don't complicate the beginning. An idea should not die in the beginning. An idea, there should be a free flow of idea. Even Mark Zuckerberg, keep on emphasizing, that's why they are funding the corporates, that startups, you might be aware. So don't, life is very simple. Don't complicate. But, to understand that simplicity, that demands your proactiveness. Ladies and gentlemen, that demands your passion, that demands your involvement, participation, performance, consistency, perseverance. If process is right, product is right. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Unacademy once again. This is Success Sampath hitherto interacted with you, especially on the popular and highly scoring optional subject called Sociology. You please watch all my videos, part of Unacademy YouTube channel, as well as having downloaded the very Unacademy app, the platform also, not only live videos, even if you're already subscriber, you can watch my previous videos cutting across sociology, ethics and integrity, essay, as well as the topics meant for international relations, and also the questions based discussions, the MCQs, prelims, even the various segments of general studies. Several questions came out of that. You understand, you watch those videos, compare with questions, you will understand the relevance and presence and my contribution. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're benefiting with the blessings of the God, we feel we are quite relevant. Part of Unacademy. Ladies and gentlemen, welcoming you once again. This is Success Sampath, here to interact with you. And that very good night. Before going there, ladies and gentlemen, last but not least, of course, please use my referral ID, say success, to avail maximum 10% discount. Ladies and gentlemen, please go for iconic program, because you will be allotted a personal coach or mentor to take care of you, to understand your nature, and accordingly to train you on everyday basis. Though it is going to be virtual learning, you will be given individual attention. Please use my referral ID, say success, to avail maximum 10% discount. Ladies and gentlemen, you can also reach me through Telegram channel Unacademy_Sampath, or watch my videos part of Unacademy YouTube channel, say Success Sampath or Sampath Tiruvengidam, even on the part of that Unacademy platform, and also reach me through social network, whether it is Facebook, WhatsApp, Telegram. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, that this is Success Sampath Tiruvengidam in front of you, welcoming you once again. Thank you so much for your passion. Hope with the blessings of the God, I would have made your time worthwhile. Thank you so much. Let's meet, that in another session with another topic to make it, worthwhile. Work towards win-win situation. Wishing you all the very best, that all India toppers, of course, that the future leaders of Indian, the nation, of course, ladies and gentlemen. Happy weekend. Thank you so much, everyone. Good night. Thank you, please. Thank you.